Thousands, mostly young people, poured onto the streets across Nigeria, protesting against the worst cost of living crisis in a generation. Roads were blocked in parts of the country either by placard-carrying demonstrators or armed security forces. Security agencies were deployed after days of mobilization for protests against the government. Some groups also staged demonstrations in support of President Bola Tinubu. Rights groups and activists have raised concerns about a possible clampdown by the government. Many businesses across the country were shut today amid fears of clashes between the police and demonstrators. Protesters chanted songs as they listed their demands, including the reinstatement of gas and electricity subsidies. The removal of subsidies has had a knock-on effect on the price of just about everything.
No person is talking about their right to protest, but the court order have said that they should protest inside the stadium.
Hey, where are we? Are we not at the National Stadium? We are at the National Stadium. We are in the National Stadium.
Okay, but now, talking about...
And do you know that I've actually not seen the order? I've not seen the order. All I have seen are news reports.
We are protesting peacefully. Look at them throwing tear gas at us. We did not do anything. We did not cause any harm. Police are throwing tear gas at us. We are hungry. Tinubu, please come and address us.
Meanwhile, a pro-Tinubu group is urging Nigerians to be patient with President Bola Tinubu. They also advise Nigerians to pursue dialogue with the federal government. The group stationed in front of the Tinubu Shetima campaign office in the Central Business District of Abuja were seen chanting pro-Tinubu songs. Arise correspondent Georgina Ndukwe Ezanyika reports.
The nationwide anti-hunger protests tagged End Bad Governance began in Abuja, with protesters displaying placards at the MKO Abiola National Stadium. On the other hand, were protesters who took to the streets to counter the much publicized protest. Positioned at the Tinubu Shetima campaign office located in the Central Business District of Abuja, the supporters held placards with various inscriptions commending President Tinubu for putting in place policies intended to make life better for Nigerians. Minister of State for Police Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, who spoke with Arise News, urged Nigerians to be patient.
I can't stand here and tell you that everything is good, everything is okay, otherwise there won't be any government. So the workings of government is to continue to perfect on whatever we have on ground. We met a very bad situation. Several years of bad governance. And I can tell you that Mr. President means well. And this is a wake-up call for everybody, not just the people in government, but even the citizens, that we must have all hands on deck. We must assume our most patriotic form so that we can be able to push our country forward.
Nigerians must be patient with the government. Elections are over. It's time for governance. Every patriotic Nigerian, as we speak, should join hands with the president, as it were, to move Nigeria to the next level. It is time for us to come together as a people.
Others say economic inflation is soaring globally, not just in Nigeria, emphasizing the need for Nigerians to work together to change the economic situation.
COVID happened and the world changed economically. You understand? In Nigeria, it's worse in Nigeria because our hope is only based on our petroleum. And when COVID happened, we could not export. You understand? And this rot does not just stand today. It started over 30 years. So just like you're asking, is 1 year not enough? It's not enough.
In less than 1 week, in less than 2 months, that they enacted the law for loan for students. As of today, he has disbursed 1.5 billion to students of less privilege. This has never been done before.
What the president is doing with the local government autonomy is to make sure that money spreads to all parts of Nigeria. We need to be patient and give the president a chance.
Bola Ahmed Tinubu has did 13 good things in 1 year, that is very standard, and that is recommendable, and that is good. And also, I wanted to enlighten the public as well that one good thing about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he has a listening ear.
Several well-armed security personnel are stationed at the Unity Fountain to prevent protesters from entering. Armored tanks and trucks filled with security officers were seen patrolling the streets. Well, Unity Fountain in Abuja is a representation of the unity of the country. It has since been a point of convergence for movements, protests, civil society, and various groups. Now, this has made this location a symbol of social activism. However, it is unusual not to see any protester here, most likely in obedience to the court order restricting the protesters to the MKO Abiola National Stadium. It is not immediately clear how the protests will evolve in the coming days, but the protesters say they will continue to hit the streets till the government announces immediate actions to end hunger and poverty in the country. Georgina Ndukwezaika, Arise News.
Well, I'm joined in the studio by Professor Okey Ikechukwu, a policy analyst and renowned professor of strategic management and human capital development. He's also the executive director of Development Specs Academy. Prof, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's begin with you on how you journeyed or drove from home to this place. Did you have any problems? Did you encounter any difficulties, or it was a smooth ride?
Very smooth. As a matter of fact, earlier in the day today, also I went around. I noticed pockets of well-armed policemen stationed in key places of access to important establishments, if you like, but movement was unchallenged. And right now, to a large extent, normalcy has returned in most parts of the town, but that's a one day, because against the background of what's happening in other parts of the country, it may be too early to assume that all is well.
So in general, how would you assess this first day of the protest? Because it's going to be a couple of days.
Well, it presents some concerns. If I were the protesters, I would have gone to the stadium, entered the stadium, knowing that everything I say and do will be reported, because the media hunts for news. News doesn't hunt for the media. They will have entered. That is one. Two, when they left that place and came into town, it's also good that they didn't damage anything. And the point made by, I think, one of the leaders, the fair-complexioned young man, that they hadn't seen the court order. If that is correct, then that's a lapse. If you say you're issuing court orders, that means there's an entity to whom it's directed. So you take the court order, serve. If it's rejected, get some evidence that that's done. So to make an announcement, that's not the equivalent. And knowing that you're also dealing with intelligent young people, you must plug all the loopholes. So if that hasn't been done, let it be done. I imagine it will continue tomorrow. The other disturbing element or aspect is that it began to gather momentum later in the day in most parts of the country, Ojota, Nyanya, parts of Abuja, etc. So that's an index that probably some people took time, looked at how the day was going, and said, well, it's about time to go and make some trouble.
Yes.
You know, and also looking around, you find that most places outside of the central core Abuja capital are under-policed. It brings about it re-emphasizes the fact that the nation is under-policed. We have few policemen. In the city here, you can find them well-kitted and the rest of it. All those guys in rags outside of Abuja, they're not policemen. You see somebody who allegedly is on police duty, and you think he's either a madman or he stole federal arms, because he's wearing slippers, a different colored shirt, and then you actually discover he's a serving policeman, not properly dressed. So these are issues on the table, because we pray it doesn't get worse. If it does, I don't think they will cope, or they can cope. If you also think of bringing in the military, the army specifically, again, can you really gain much mileage? Already the Nigerian Army is overstretched. There's Boko Haram, there's banditry, there's personnel challenge. Some of the officers and men have been in postings. You're posted to some place, you're supposed to be there for probably a month or 3 months, and you've been there for more than a year. How is your morale? And they're also manning checkpoints in different parts of the country, like the South. So there's a lot of reasons why this shouldn't get worse. Well,
there are a few states where the governors have already imposed a curfew.
Curfew, yeah.
So we have that in Yobe, we have that in Borno, Kano. You know, so it looks like it's already getting out of hand in a few states.
The problem is not even the position of the fact that they imposed a curfew, but the fact that a curfew became necessary. Where is the vice president from?
Borno State, yes.
That is, assuming I'm vice president. I'm from Anambra State. And there's so much unrest in my state that there has to be a curfew. That should give me a lot of cause for concern. I will demand explanations. Now, the point is, government is seen as sitting somewhere and the people are elsewhere.
And that's one of the reasons why
yes, what's the job of local governments? That's an APC-dominated state. In other words, nobody in this state. You saw some people trying to tell us that the government has been doing a lot. Yes, the government has been doing some things. Was it on this TV you're going to tell Nigerians that? Most of whom don't have electricity and therefore who don't know you're talking? You see, the delusion that setting up a what you call a pro-government counter-protest in front of a government address, you forget that already by that address and your description, you've already lost the audience. So here is a group talking to itself and being excited about it. And people in government will, of course, see them. See, our boys are doing something. The question is, are they getting mileage?
In fact, it looks like a lot of the APC states is where the protesters are more, you know, vibrant and, you know, making serious demands to the government. What does that say? What
it says is that it's not the opposition. It is Nigerians who are angry, hungry, displeased, unaware of party divides, unaware of religious divides, concerned that their lives are in danger, that not enough is being done. And that's where the challenge arises, namely the disconnect between the genuine intentions of the presidency and the drill down to the people. You say you're giving us 15 trucks of rice, let us suppose in my state, trailers, and you actually disperse it, you've signed it, the money has been put out, the bags are procured. Sitting there, as far as I am concerned as president, there's nothing else. I've done what I ought to do. It turns out that those who are to operate after my directive have different intentions. We saw on social media 2 days ago, one group, one of the artisan groups, Association of Air Conditioners and all of that, and they brought their share of the palliative, brought for the association. Very impressive. It was less than a bag of rice. And they had their members filled up. And they made another look. Nobody should, people, and it's part of it had a lot of weevil. Now, the point is this. This swindling going on in the name of public administration, which has been going on since this our democracy started, is coming to a head. So it's not a specific government issue, it's an elite crisis. Okay, Tinubu came on in response to the fuel price hike. I think there was a concession made for road transport, subsidy, then for the train. What happened? Those who administer it held on to the tickets, and unless you pay, so you had trains driving empty from Lagos to Ibadan. Then for our brothers who are doing road transport, the transport I think was 28,000. They moved it to either 48,000. So you still collect the subsidy, the people still pay the original amount. Now,
without everything that is happening, we're having this protest a couple of days. How can we gauge the success of this movement that is ongoing?
When you speak of success, I ask myself, is it success in media visibility or success in what you're saying being heard?
Eventually, yes.
Or impact on, the impact can be disruptive. That's enough. You say, okay, we've really harassed them. Is that what you want to achieve? No, you want to achieve a change. And the other question will then be, the changes I desire, they're feasible in the short term? Okay, you say return to 200 naira for petrol. I'm not aware it was 200. I thought it was 169, unless I've been buying.
Well, just return the subsidies, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Return the subsidies on electricity and
But look at the narrative. Look at the narrative. This government came on and said subsidy is off. Then in the first 1 week, we were informed that the government had saved 400 million. After that, there was it 1 month? I don't remember now. After that, there was no further communication, and then we learned it's all come back. And fuel price has been crawling up from the original 650. It keeps going up in some places, 750 now. Now, here is the crisis and the catch. I am the one who was transporting myself at 50 naira from one point to another to get to work. Now, the fare for that same trip is now 180 naira, and my salary hasn't changed. The mudu of gari I was buying for 600 is now 2,000. I still must eat. My salary hasn't changed. So people are not angry specifically that this government, they are just angry that they can no longer survive. And once that happens, rationality collapses.
Yes.
In I think Yobe State, they burnt,
Yes.
they burnt public transport buses. Now that's the crisis. A riot is not a protest. You're burning buses, which Tinubu will not ride. So assuming the riot ends today, you have fewer buses to ferry the people who burnt it. That means that a protest must have intelligent communication, must create an organized perspective for those involved. Listen, this is what we want to achieve. We're angry, but anger delivers nothing. We can go and pull down this pillar, but will that deliver what we want? So there's no argument. There's no point of view being addressed by burning a bus. But there's a point of view being addressed by saying, on these specific demands, we need to have a conversation.
So are you saying that the people who organize the protests or the sponsors are not intelligent enough to connect all of this, to know how it affects them and how to drive home their demands and get what they need from the government?
No, that would be an unfair statement to make. They are intelligent people. They are structured in their demands. They took time to plan this. But group cohesion is what presents a challenge when a lot of people are involved. If, for instance, you find out that they've gone to burn down buses, that wasn't the intention of the organizers. Some people just go off the handle and you can't control it. That's why pre-event mobilization is the most critical element for successful protests. And that's where I think the challenge is. I saw the young lady on your clip saying that, look, we are not doing anything, they are shooting at us. They can be more organized, but three things must be put on the table. Number one, there is not suffering in the land to warrant anger, to warrant a protest, but there's nothing to justify a riot because most of the time the casualties are likely to be those involved. And I keep citing the example of June 12th. Then I was on the editorial board of The Guardian. All of us practically would sleep in the office. All of us were pro-June 12th. We need to have this mandate restored. This man won the elections. Nobody even remembered it was a Muslim ticket. He was loved all over the country and voted for who he was. But there you are, going home from The Guardian. On Ikorodu Road, there's a riot. The fact that you're driving a car, never mind there is a Tokumbo car you're very proud of. The fact that you're inside a car means you must be one of those spending Nigeria's money. So you find that opportunistic criminality takes over from a genuine cause,
right? And
that's where the worry is.
So how does this protest compare to similar movements in the past, both within the country and globally? And how do you really see this playing out?
No, nobody can right now predict, because assuming, for instance, this was going on in, say, a particular part of the country that we could say, assuming this whole thing was going on in the southeast, somebody would say, they're angry that people didn't, Nigerians didn't vote their brother Peter Obi. Nothing is happening there. Assuming it was...
In fact, it's very calm.
Very calm, and you must understand the logic. People think it was a group consensus. Yes, the elders said we are mourning and all of that, but the truth of the matter is that the larger percentage of population of Igbo people in Nigeria survive by their own personal effort. So they are not accustomed to any culture of group engagement that attracts favors to be shared later.
Especially with the government.
Yes. If you don't open your shop, you don't make money. So why are you rioting? Fuel has been deregulated in the Southeast for over 15 years. At the time fuel was selling for less than 200, there was nowhere you would go and get it for less than 250, and there was no fuel queue throughout the Southeast. So people that are accustomed to paying for whatever they need to get to keep going are not amenable to let's go and grumble and get something. That's on one side. It doesn't mean the hunger is not there. But the real issue, and if I was in government at that level for concern, is how come it is our own people? Remember the volume of votes Kano allegedly gave? Then the vice president's own state, then Gombe, then Niger blocking the road. These are hungry human beings who don't understand the meaning of political party.
Let's take a broader lens. What do you think are the historical factors that led us here? Just briefly.
Oh, no, it doesn't require any soothsayer to tell us. Anybody could have seen 4 years ago that there will be food crisis in Nigeria. The farmers were not farming enough. Some farming communities are no longer farming communities because they are in refugee camps. Now, where they used to farm wheat, sugarcane, and the rest of it, re-desertification has claimed that place. But then you have the Northeast Development Commission, a wonderful organization set up to develop the Northeast. What is it doing? Procurement and distribution of food, mosquito net. So the very concept of development is violated.
So it's going back to the palliative philosophy, the handouts.
Arms giving as development is only consumption.
Yes.
And the state that will be worst hit in the Federal Republic of Nigeria is Borno State. 2 years ago or thereabouts, I wrote an article, why Zulum needs help. At that time, he had received 500, 6,000, and all of that, repentant Boko Haram. I think 2 days ago, so there was a report of 200,000 now fully rehabilitated. What does that mean? Somebody who never had a sense of community. You bring him, you say it's a de-radicalization program, you tell them to be patriotic and all of that. These are weed smokers and the rest of it. So after listening to a lecture, they will be of good behavior. It can't happen. And so they are let loose again. Look.
So what are you supposed to do instead of that?
Just 2 more sentences, I'll come to that. 4 years ago, thereabouts, about 3, there was an event that took us to Maiduguri in connection with communication for, what do you call it? Military personnel who are in public communication in connection with the crisis there. And we visited the Shehu of Borno. His statement needs to be repeated to all Nigerians. He said, you people in government, somebody who was part of a community woke up one day and killed the parents of some of his neighbors, ran into the bush, he's a bandit. Now you say he's repentant, you bring him, you rub powder on him, and he's rehabilitated, and he's coming back to behold those who no longer have that. You know, it can't happen.
Without consequence.
Precisely. And so the whole de-radicalization program is an expenditure platform that is not likely to deliver social cohesion. We are not aware of that. We are not paying attention to it. We are not consulting the affected communities, and we are saying we are reclaiming. Repentant? By what criteria?
So this is also government, setting up policies or taking actions that it thinks people need without actually asking the people
how that fits into their organic identity.
Yes.
The second element is that this is leading to progressive demobilization of the well-trained Nigerian army that distinguishes itself everywhere. The army is not trained to keep prisoners as a profession. It's not trained to nurse children. It's the only profession where your business is to take down this target or it will take you down. The army, the soldier is not trained like a policeman to shoot you in the leg. He's to train and to shoot and kill you. Now they are too few, not sufficiently armed. They are sabotaged from the communities because the targets are now embedded. And in the midst of that, there's poverty. You ask yourself, what will make somebody go to, a traditional ruler, go to cooperate with bandits for them to come and rob his town? He no longer understands community. You remember 3 years ago, the train robbery in the southwest? 2 Obas, I think, were arrested in connection with the traditional rulers. So what kind of society is that?
So in the state of the radicalization or de-radicalization that you say that is not working, what should the government be doing?
A bandit is what? A criminal, right? He is taking on the military. You take him on. You find out from clear evidence that the bulk of them are actually not Nigerians. You also find out that much of the banditry going on, particularly in Zamfara area, is not about banditry or kidnapping, is a fight over mining spaces for gold. What should the army do? You take out the enemy. It's that simple.
So it looks like, or you're suggesting that the government is either unserious or sabotaging its own country.
The government is being sabotaged by those who are supposed to be working for it because they get onto the assignment and carve out empires. Okay, I think 4 days ago we heard about the report of was it 15 illegal refineries destroyed? How many illegal refineries have we destroyed in the last 1 year? It's more than 100. And that's by bombing, etc. But Tompolo is paid, is it 4 billion for securing the pipelines? That's one. Preventing bunkering. The money is still being paid. Then how much is a bomb that is being dropped to destroy a refinery of that's what probably some concocted thing that didn't cost 2 million to build up, and you're recording it as success, and you're endangering personnel? If one pilot is shot down by those boys, well, how long does it take to train a fighter pilot? So our investment is a mess in national security. Remember there was a time the Kaduna route was being patrolled? How much is jet fuel? So there's a total disconnect.
So these are deep-seated issues. Do you think that the present government understands? I'm sure the president gets intelligence reports. Do you think he has the capability to make any difference?
I think he has the capability.
Okay.
The only thing is that he has to enforce some very definite, decisions. Somebody set up an alternative armed facility. If you like an alternative army, here in Nasarawa State, isn't it? Mediatiala set up. They had uniforms, they were fully dressed, kitted out. How long did it take to train 2,000, or is it 2,700 or more? And then the fellow got arrested. Oh, how could you have done that? But there were security personnel in attendance at the launch. The government was represented. Then the man was arrested. Today the charge has been dropped. There's a bandit leader who was top banned, I think somewhere in the Zamfara area. So you find that there's no cohesive perspective. So the most dangerous thing that happens to a leader is that his dependency is multiplied by over 1,000 once he assumes leadership. And when those servicing those dependencies are not loyal, you wouldn't know. When instructions go out, at that level that ethereal level is accomplished, the drill down takes time. Now, the time between instruction and drill down is what we are dealing with today. Okay, they say food prices, and that's the thing, ad hocism. When the food crisis came, I think some warehouses were raided, the food was distributed, price of rice came down, anybody looking will have known it's delusional. Then, remember also, the price of dollar fell and fell until it came to 900, now it's gone to 1,006. The crisis is real. This is not the time to say waka to the government or say good for them. There is nobody who is not suffering. Anybody who has a solution should come in. The opposition should give templates that would replace the crisis we are facing. But to stay on the side and be saying they are not doing well suggests that as opposition you are a dumb. Because there's not. Opposition is about alternative submissions, about a shadow cabinet, about indications of what should be done. And as people hear you, they say, oh, if you had gone in, you'll do it better. Okay, you are preparing for the next election by being opposition. But to take time and elaborately tell us how angry everybody is, the person you're talking to is already angry. So I would like to have it on record that at this point in our national history, we have the most incoherent and unintelligent opposition across all the parties, with the added to the incompetence of the party in power. The template is there. Awo was in opposition. What did he do? Sir Ahmadu Bello, his views were known. Zeke's position on things. What point of view is on the table apart from APC did this and he didn't do that? Let them even borrow from APC before he came to power.
I'm writing press statements.
Thank you. Most of the press statements are so painfully long, not realizing that nobody will read more than 2 paragraphs.
Right.
So you find that at the level of political literacy, the parties are illiterate. Look at APC before that should PDP out of power. Look at their opposition. They didn't have their facts right on many issues. They said, oh, dollar will be $1 to $1 naira. But they were able to drive a narrative that got everybody thinking differently.
Okay.
It's not happening now. We're not seeing solutions. All of us are angry. Children are in the streets. They may get shot. They shouldn't be shot. Let them organize better. Be specific about their demands. Present it. Let government say, okay, let's meet. Take the demands, fix a subsequent meeting with outcomes.
Professor Okey Ikechukwu, thank you so much for coming on Arise Prime Time.
Thank you.